you know, you have to understand that one of the things that we're operating in the shadow of with this taxonomy is 2 landmark reports last year. The IPCC 1.5 degree report, you know, frankly was shocking. If you haven't read it, read it, but don't read it late at night because you'll get nightmares. Because it basically says that unless we reduce global emissions by 50% in 10 years, we, or more to the point, our children are toast. There is no future for the species on this planet once we start triggering climate change tipping points of all sorts. The risk, and this is a risk, right? We already have a risk that is too late. If you've seen the reports coming back from Siberia, where there is methane fizzing up like soda water in the bays, in the now ice-free bays in northern Siberia, you'll realise what that means with potential for frozen for clathrates injecting methane into the atmosphere like adrenaline into a body. This is already underway. So they're saying that to have a reasonable risk, and it's only a reasonable risk, of avoiding utterly catastrophic, because we're going to have catastrophic, we're going to have a century and a couple of centuries of really extreme weather, we have to get emissions down 50% in 10 years. And then the IEA backed this up with their 1.5 degree modelling. I appreciate the full modelling release has been vetoed by the US at the IEA board, which is shameful, frankly. But the headline got out. Fatih Birol still got out the headline, and the press release came out and said, under 1.5 degree modelling, there can be no new, unabated, in brackets, fossil fuels. This is not us saying it, this is the IEA saying it. So that's what we're in the shadow of with this taxonomy. So we've been asked by the Commission of Taxonomy to address something which looks at climate change and a number of other environmental issues. So when we look at climate change, we had no choice but to end up saying, okay, we have to have a tough threshold when it comes to electricity generation, which you'll all be aware is the 100 grams of CO2 equivalent, which is technology-astic, which opens up huge opportunities for innovation. I fully agree with the kite and run position, by the way. I fully agree with it. That is, we need to make sure we have thresholds that allow for technological innovation, which is what we've done with technology-agnostic thresholds in numerous places in the taxonomy. We also need to have something which is commensurately ambitious with the challenge we face. And it is absolutely true that there is hardly a country or a jurisdiction in the world that has fully grasped the implications of the reports of the last year. We are wrestling with this now. Every time I give a speech around the world on this issue, I have the kind of arguments that Monica has in the EIB on a daily basis. Can we be doing this? We shouldn't be. And full credit for the EIB management to rising to this challenge with a new energy policy that is going back to the board in November for a second try to get past some recalcitrant member states. This is what we face. So in that context, it's not actually a matter of what governments or us might decide is better in China versus India. It is a problem for the planet about emissions. The doctors, the scientists of the world have given us our prognosis. We have cancer, and that cancer is potentially terminal. And unless we take rapid action, we will die. Well, a lot of us will die. That's essentially, now bear that in mind first. Now, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to provide a procurement list that will support a rapid shift in our economies. A shift that has a chance of addressing the challenge that we face. That's what it is. Nothing more complicated than that. We have tried to lay out what the science is telling us will be the right kinds of investments. It will. You need these things because this now becomes a basis for incentives. It will become the basis for collateral framework initiatives by central banks. It will become the basis for discounted capital for emerging markets. We will have cheaper capital out of this by the time we finished in a couple of years' time to build a railway in Lagos versus a freeway. That's where we've got to get to. We already have the beginnings of those. And you can speak to Anuj Mehta about what he's doing with the Asian Development Bank catalyst funds in this kind of direction. We will have common reporting by investors. That's what we're doing. We've had a huge win already with the taxonomy. I think we've already heard it from the other panelists. Everyone's talking taxonomy. Hallelujah. Everyone is talking about what's in and what's out. It's no longer the vagueness that we've had in the last few years. Oh, we've got 80 years to sort out gas. Now it's a question, can't I get back in it for a bit of gas? That's the conversation that's happening. So we've won at least to that extent. We've also introduced something which is momentous in the discussion of the last couple of years. We have introduced this idea that there will be transitions in the steel industry, in the plastics industry, in the other sectors, and we have to be robust and ambitious, but there will be transitions. Now, the primary author of the Kaizen proposal in Japan was the Japan Iron and Steel Federation, who, by the way, has a fantastic 2050 zero carbon plan for steel. A fantastic plan using hydrogen. All we want is to advance it to 2035. It's not a hard ask, is it? Now, what we can see happening now as a result of this discussion is an extraordinary opportunity for collaboration between people like the Japan Iron and Steel Federation and European bodies around how we make this transition. We know we have to do better than we've done. Everyone knows that. It's only an argument of how far we can push it and how fast we can push it. And we need all our minds together working on it. We would like to have a collaboration, an active collaboration with Japan, and I think we will have by next year, and China on the steel industry and other critical industries about how we do transition. And this becomes the flow-on effect of the taxonomy and what we've done so far. So that is the opportunity here. Look, next, what will we see next? We will see a harmonisation with China. We've begun the work of providing recommendations for how we can harmonise across the taxonomy. We'll be producing another report on this in March next year, working with PBOC and NDRC, the National Development Reform Commission. They are committed to this process over time. But more importantly, what you're going to see now is a whole lot of regional refinement in collaboration with other taxonomies, hopefully under the International Platform on Sustainable Finance. So Colombia has committed to doing a taxonomy. Mexico's committing to do a taxonomy. Indonesia's keen on doing a taxonomy. ASEAN, by the way, already has a headline taxonomy, which excludes all fossil fuels, by the way. That's the ASEAN Capital Markets Federation. These will have refinements locally. Canada will look at mining. Now, that doesn't mean it'll be bringing in gas mining or tar sands. What it does mean is they'll be bringing in strategically important minerals for the transition. Palladium, cobalt, lithium. These are mining industries that we need to be part of this taxonomy. That work will be contributed to the European work. We will have a collaborative effort across different countries, looking at specific areas relevant to that country, and if we get the right framework up front, we will then have a patchwork quilt of a global taxonomy that we all agree with. And mutual recognition between taxonomies, as Nathan says. This is a recipe for how we fix the planet, if we do it in a collaborative fashion. And our invitation to Japan, to China, to India, to the other members of the international platform is exactly this, that we collaborate, but we collaborate not within a framework determined by our regional policy initiatives, that we collaborate in a framework determined by the science. Like I said, the doctors have given us our prescription, our diagnosis, I should say. We have cancer. We have to act, and we have to act damn fast. I don't know if it's going to feel like chemotherapy, but we do have to act fast, and that's all we're saying with the taxonomy.
Great, thanks, Sean.